Bonjour et bienvenue à LingoRelic Language Academy. My name is Divya Singla and I am a French language trainer ever since 2016. I have been training a lot of students for their DELF examinations, their TEF examinations, and their TCF examinations. And in today's session, in today's video, I am going to be talking to you about the TEF Canada exam, the details that you need to know about it. So here's what I am going to cover in this video. We discuss what the TEF Canada exam is about, the level descriptors for the exam, when and why I took the test, my own score in TEF Canada, the exam format in detail, my own exam experience, which could help you to also understand how it's going to be for you, tips for preparation and the exam day, how to register for the exam, and what are the centers in India wherein you can take the examination. Then you will have some TEF Canada exam preparation resources. And finally, you will have some FAQs related to the TEF Canada exam. All right, alors c'est parti, on va commencer. What the TEF Canada exam is about. First of all, the most important purpose for this exam is the Canadian immigration. Now, talking about the Canadian immigration, you need to increase your CRS score in your express entry profile, for which very reason you need the TEF Canada exam points. So the minimum requirement for which is generally the level B2. I'm going to talk to you about the level descriptors in just a while. Therein you will understand what I mean to say when I say level B2. You have the TEF Canada exam as an official proof of your French language proficiency, which, by the way, is going to not only help you with your Canadian immigration, but also with your job opportunities within and outside of India. So definitely TEF Canada is one of those official proofs recognized worldwide, which can help you for your Canadian immigration and for job opportunities. Within India, if you want to work as a French trainer, then yes, you are definitely suggested to have taken the TEF Canada examination, because that definitely adds to your profile. Talking about the exam format, here you have 4 compulsory modules in the TEF Canada. I know that there are different versions of the TEF exam, and there is also an exam called TCF, which is different. But right now in this video, I'm only covering the TEF Canada exam. So the 4 compulsory modules, the first one being the reading comprehension, wherein in 60 minutes you are supposed to attempt the answers to 50 questions. These are all MCQ type questions and no subjective questions. So you only have to select one correct response amongst each question. This is for 300 points generally. Further, you have listening comprehension, which is called la compréhension orale, wherein you have 40 minutes to attempt answers to 60 questions, and this one is worth 360 points. After this, you will have your writing expression, which is also called the production écrite, wherein you have 60 minutes to cover 2 topics, section A and section B, for 450 points. The last section is with spoken skills, la production orale, wherein you will get 15 minutes to talk about 2 sections, 2 topics, one being formal, the second one being informal, and the examiner is going to judge you based on your spoken capacity and will give you marks out of 450. Voila. We're going to talk about each of these activities in a little bit more detail, just a little further. Talking about the level descriptors now, according to the CEFR, you have levels A1, you have A2, you have B1, B2, C1, and C2. For TEF Canada candidates, generally, the minimum requirement is that for a level B2. And in case you attain a level C1 or C2, that's even better, because that will fetch you better marks. Talking about the minimum requirement again, here you have level B2, which is equivalent to the CLB 7 in TEF Canada. So generally, when I get a query for French classes, I generally hear students saying we need a CLB 7 in TEF Canada, which is what their immigration advisor has generally suggested to them. And so if you want to go further with your French studies, you will have to pursue your studies till level B2, which is what you require. C1, C2, that's definitely a plus. This proves that you are an independent user or a proficient user. You will not fetch any points if you only bag just A1, A2, or B1 levels in this. Talking about why I took the test. Well, like I already mentioned that I am a French language trainer in India. I had been working with TEF candidates so far, and in between I started getting a lot of queries for TEF Canada. So I wanted to upgrade my profile, obviously, and for which I started preparing myself and continued to also train students for their lower levels while I was getting prepared for the exam myself. And at the same time, this also did help me to improve my linguistic skills because it did give me a chance to study French in more detail, in more depth. And voila. One of all my reasons also for appearing for the TEF Canada was to get an exam experience in France, because at the time when I took the exam, I was already in France. I was quite keen to take an exam in France. Now, here is my attestation de résultat, which is for TEF Canada. And as you can see, this is what the attestation generally will look like when you receive it. So here will be nom, prénom, date de naissance, numéro d'inscription, which I had to hide, date de session, which I took on 21st March 2022, and the centre, the center wherein you've taken the exam. Mine was in AVD Formation Paris, France. And here is where you do your signature. So basically they take your signature on the tab, and for that signature is the one that appears on your attestation also. Further, you see a table wherein all the detailed marks for each module are presented. First of all, compréhension écrite, reading, which is B2. Compréhension orale, listening, B2 again. Expression écrite, that is writing, B2. And expression orale, which is speaking, C1. So that's my score for TEF Canada. And the second page of your attestation looks somewhat like this. This is description de la performance. This is like a descriptor for each level. Whatever levels you have attained, they will explain what all things you are capable of doing using the French language. So talking about my experience in each module, I'll be explaining the details of each subtest alongside explaining the activities that there are included in each subtest. So first of all, I appeared for my reading test, wherein I had 50 questions to answer in 60 minutes. Personally, reading was the most challenging part for me throughout my preparation and during the exam also. So during my reading exam, unfortunately, the background was quite noisy. The room wherein I was sitting had a window open, and I was unable to close it, because of which there was a lot of traffic noise. So it was quite distracting for me, unfortunately. But then I had a very strong mental approach, considering that this is now or never, do or die. So this is the approach I went by, and I did not let anything else deter me. I continued to answer my questions, and midway, when the level of difficulty started increasing in the questions, I realized that I absolutely had to ask the examiner to close that window. The first few questions related to levels A1 till A2 and even B1 were quite easy. It did not take me much time to complete those. But as I started heading towards B2 or C1 and C2, obviously the difficulty level and the length of each text was more, which made it more challenging for me. But I made it a point to continue till the end and not leave any question blank, because the best part is that there is no negative marking in the exam. So I was able to attempt all of the questions in one go. So after completing all of my exam from question 1 till the end, the timer was going on the top right corner, and there was a complete panel wherein the number of questions was given, and it was also being reflected as to which questions I had answered, which ones were remaining. So I could go back and forth. I could switch between the questions and come back to any question that I had not attempted, or maybe change the sequence. So that was completely up to me. But for me personally, I preferred going by sequence first and then coming back to the questions of which the answers I had not attempted yet. For the listening module, what happens is that you do not have any control over the audio. You do not have any control over the questions. They just continue for those 40-45 minutes, and you're supposed to keep answering them as you listen to the audio. So in this one, you generally have a break of 15 to 20 seconds before almost each question, especially the longer ones. You read the question, you read the options, and then you answer at the end of those 20 seconds when the audio starts playing. And for the shorter questions, generally you are expected to answer without any pause in between. For listening, you do not have the right to even go back to the questions again to make any changes. Once the 40 minutes or the 45 minutes have ended, you do not have any control to come back to the listening again. Now speaking about the writing module. In the writing module, you have two sections, section A et section B. Section A relates to a fait divers. Fait divers deals with an article from the newspaper of which the beginning one line is given to you, and you have to imagine the further story. So it could be anything based on reality or based on your imagination. And the word limit of this one is generally 80 words minimum that is mentioned in the exam, but you could write up to 120 words. That's completely fine. In this, you have to divide into paragraphs your description of an event that took place. And fait divers generally is written considering, imagining yourself as a journalist. And so there is no personal opinion added. And this is very formal. And you do not even have to address anyone as vous. You just have to keep yourself neutral and at a distance from the narration while you still narrate the event. Second part is where you have a formal letter. In the formal letter, generally you are given une affirmation, a statement from a newspaper article that is picked, and you are supposed to write a formal letter to the rédacteur en chef ou la rédactrice en chef for or against this particular statement. So this is also done while dividing paragraphs, and you present your arguments. Either you talk about your opinion in favor or against. That is not the thing that you're being judged based on, but you're being judged based on your writing capacity, your skills in writing while using connectors, while using complex sentences, while dividing paragraphs, and using a particular letter format for a formal letter. Voilà. For the fourth part, speaking, here what you have is a formal dialogue in the section A, and in section B, you have an informal dialogue. Formal dialogue means you're going to use the pronoun vous here, whereas informal dialogue means you're going to use the pronoun tu here. So this means that the speaking test is organized in order to judge your capacity to communicate in a formal setting as well as an informal setting. So for a formal dialogue, what you have is a newspaper ad in front of you. It could be related to some product or service that you are interested in buying. And you now have a telephonic conversation with the person in charge, with your interlocuteur. Here in this case, it's going to be your examiner, votre examinateur, examinatrice, who is going to give you information about it. So this task is basically focused on assessing your skills to obtain information while putting multiple questions, at least 10 to 12 questions related to that ad. So while you put those questions, you're also expected to keep this as a natural conversation and not sound robotic here, because you're expected to deal with it as a real life situation. So you start this dialogue with some greetings, la formule de politesse, and then you close while respectfully, politely telling them that you will get back to them after having considered their offer. Voila. After that, you have the second dialogue, informal dialogue. In this section, generally, you again have a newspaper ad based on a product or a service being offered. And you have to consider that you personally are interested in it. And now you have to convince a friend or a family member to also avail this offer or this service with you. In this one, you are supposed to start with presenting to them the document, presenting to them the ad, as in explaining what ad you came across in your own words. Alors, il faut reformuler les idées, which is followed by now the conversation to convince the examiner, your friend or your family member. Herein, the examiner is going to present to you multiple arguments related to why they are not able to or they are not interested in availing this offer or this service. You have to present some arguments in order to convince them towards the end. There are cases when the examiner is convinced towards the end, which is a win-win. But there are also cases wherein the examiner might tell you that he's not very convinced, he will think about it, or say that he's not going to avail the offer, which is completely normal. In this part, your ability to convince is not being assessed as much as your ability to have an informal dialogue is being assessed. So herein, you just have to present your arguments, not obsessing about absolutely convincing them and not worrying if in case they are not convinced. So an informal dialogue also has just some strategies to follow, which is what for your TEF Canada preparation you need to study. Further, here are some tips for the preparation and the exam day, which I provide to you. The first step to start with is to start the French language pronunciations, as in sentence formation should be preceded by pronunciations. You will notice that French pronunciations are very different from English pronunciations, and so it is always a good idea to start with pronunciations and after that head on to the grammar and the sentence formation. Else you will see that there is a big loophole in your understanding of how to pronounce words and how to read them out and how to speak them out. Second, it is always helpful to have some knowledge about the culture and geography of France and other francophone countries of the world. I'm saying this because in the exam also the texts and the audios and the situations for speaking and writing that you will come across are generally related to ongoings in francophone countries. So if you do have some idea about them, it's always helpful. While learning the language, do a lot of handwritten practice for better retention of grammatical rules and make organized notes which you could refer to for revision a few days before exam. So a lot of students are generally unorganized in the way of their making notes, and which is why they find themselves a little lost as to where to refer to for their self-study. So day one onwards itself, when you start your French language learning journey, your notes are handwritten because that helps with retention. Plus, they are very organized. So because if you want to refer to them later at any time during your self-study, it can come handy. Further, you should practice typing on a laptop or computer right from the beginning because listening, reading, and writing are computer-based tests. And so this will help you, especially in the writing module, to type faster. Now, unfortunately, we do not have any pen and paper based version of the TEF Canada. It's only e-TEF now onwards, ever since the pandemic. And this is slight bit of a challenge for especially those who are not very tech savvy. Practice typing your writing tasks, especially on your computer or on your laptop, because that will help you get more comfortable with typing. This is a major factor that determines your writing score as well, even though not something to be assessed. Further, building vocabulary. Building vocabulary is extremely important. Building vocabulary related to various themes is extremely important because only that will help you with the writing and the speaking modules wherein you have to present based on a particular theme. Speaking practice, then listening, reading, and writing along with grammar lessons. Now, people say that grammar is not important. Well, I do say grammar is definitely important for you to polish your sentence structures to be sure that the sentences you are producing, you're writing or speaking are correct. And at the same time, you also need to keep practicing speaking, listening, and reading and writing activities related to the grammar that you have studied. For your listening, please regularly listen to a lot of podcasts, music, audios, news, and read lots of French storybooks, newspapers, blogs, etc. So it's about immersing yourself, making French your second nature. It's about making French your way of life if you really want to get that B2 plus in the TEF Canada. Once your grammar is complete, ideally till B1 studies, you should start your exam-specific preparation and familiarize yourself with the exam format. Now, it's also important to have completed your grammar studies followed by the exam-specific format because here, learning a language and appearing for its exam are two different things. If you do not know the exam pattern, if you do not know what tasks are going to be asked in the exam, if you do not know how to manage your time, and if you do not know the strategies for the same for each module, you are not going to be able to bag that B2 plus that you really aspire for. After your completion of studies or even during your studies, you could hire an experienced teacher for your French learning if you feel that you cannot learn the language on your own. Because there are people who have the aptitude for learning a language and hence they can pull it off altogether, all alone. While there are others who also want someone to, keep that discipline over them, keep that, put the order of topics in a sequence for them and to simplify the course basically. So to save your time and to save your energy and that effort that you would be putting otherwise. Other than that, if you want if you have completed your grammar studies on your own and if you're confident enough till B1, B2 grammar studies, you can start with your exam preparation to get an environment to practically communicate French in a class. Further to this, I am going to talk to you about how to register for an exam for TEF Canada. and also the centers available here in India. To register, you should contact your nearest Alliance Française via email and ask them about the upcoming dates. They are going to let you know about all the slots that are available for the next 1 or 2 months, and you can register accordingly. As for the centers for the exam, you could book at Alliance Française in Chandigarh or Ahmedabad, Bhopal, Chennai, Hyderabad, Lucknow, or Mumbai. Voila. Now let's talk about some preparation resources for TEF Canada. There are books, there is online material, and here is where you can study, you can prepare for your exam. So first of all, you have books for TEF Canada preparation. The most important official guides, the two official guides generally that are referred to for sample papers, for practice papers. The first one being TEF, Test d'évaluation de français, 250 activités, par Sylvie Pont et Gaël Cachet, by Claire International. The second one is called Objectif Réussite, TEF, Test d'évaluation de français par Hachette. So these are the two books that generally students refer to and even teachers take help from to make you prepare for the TEF Canada exam. And these are the cover pages for the two books. This is the first one and this is the second one. These two books also come with CDs, so you will have access to the audios. Further, talking about more books for TEF Canada preparation, you have books for speaking and writing modules. The fact that speaking and writing are the more active modules, you need more practice for the two, more focus on the two. And hence, I really like these two books by Jean-Claude Mathieu, TEF Canada Expression Orale, 150 sujets, 150 topics to succeed. And another one is TEF Canada Expression Écrite, 150 topics to succeed by Jean-Claude Mathieu again. This one is for speaking, this one for writing. This is how these two look like. These are excellent books. These are amazing books because they have a variety of topics to choose from that you can practice on a daily basis. And they cover both the sections, section A and section B, alongside also giving you some tips for the exams. Further, you have some online mock test papers for TEF Canada preparation, wherein you have an online subscription for 1 year for TEF Prep My Future, which contains mini tests for practice, regular practice, whereas also you have some mock tests for each module. So this one is provided by prepmyfuture.com. So generally for a 1 year subscription for Prep My Future that you purchase on their website directly is somewhere around 40 euros. Whereas you can also avail it at a discounted price if you go for it in our included TEF Canada course. Talk about more resources for the TEF Canada exam. Unfortunately, many students feel that the resources for TEF Canada are quite limited online and in the hard copy format. So that's true. But what you could do is for listen to more podcasts, more music, and news, etc. Whereas for reading, you could read more blogs, you could read more books, etc. to build your comfort with the French language. Regarding speaking and writing, a lot of material is available. So you should be able to explore it in the two books that I mentioned a while ago. Also, you could refer to our blogs about TEF Canada, our Instagram page wherein we keep sharing French material, and YouTube channel wherein also we post content from time to time. Enroll for French language classes. Well, this is for those who are planning to do a rigorous study for any level, whether you are a complete beginner, whether you are at an advanced level, or whether you are looking for TEF Canada exam specific training for each module, or whether you're looking for a specific module as per your needs to focus on your weaker areas. In these classes, you will be able to explore those secret tips, strategies, and you will be able to get enough classroom practice in language learning as well as exam-specific preparation, because therein you will be given an environment to speak more, you will be given an environment to do group discussions, dialogues, and a variety of other activities for mostly speaking and for writing, because as I say, these are the more active modules. For the reading and listening, we discuss the strategies, the tips, and you do reading partially in class and partially at home. Now I'm coming on to some common FAQs related to the TEF Canada exam. The first one being, as a beginner, can I qualify the exam within 4 to 5 months? Personally, I wouldn't say it's possible. So the thing is that for a beginner, it is also important to first of all understand the basics of the language and how it is different from the English language or any other language that you know. So it does take the first 1 or 2 months to understand those differences, unless you have a very, very strong linguistic aptitude in you as a person. So further to this, for 4 to 5 months, reaching for a B1 could be possible, but reaching a B2 level or an upper level, it's absolutely impossible. You need to give it more time. Second question, do I need to appear for DELF to be eligible for the TEF Canada? No, absolutely not. These are two absolutely different exams with different purposes, different exam structures, and different validity periods. So you need to understand that DELF is a different exam. It's for the diploma, for showing your proficiency in the French language. And it's an exam that is conducted level wise, while TEF Canada is an exam which helps you for your Canadian immigration and fetches you the points that you require for increasing your CRS score. And TEF Canada is conducted all in one day generally, and also for all the levels together. The DELF exam is valid for a lifetime. If you've qualified, you get the certificate for a lifetime. Whereas for the TEF Canada, the validity is usually 2 years. Third question, can I immediately take the TEF Canada exam after completion of my B2 studies? Well, if you've completed your B2 studies, that might also mean that you've done enough speaking, listening, reading, and writing activities during your course. But at the same time, I would also highlight the fact that the TEF Canada exam structure is very different from your DEF studies. And so you should absolutely take the time to familiarize yourself with the exam format for TEF Canada, because without that, you will, if you directly just appear for the exam not knowing what kind of tasks there are, it's not going to help you at all. Fourth question, can classroom studies alone help since I do not have enough time? Well, the fact is that most of the working professionals or people who have kids are the ones who are involved in TEF Canada studies, because they are planning on to immigrating to Canada along with their family. So quite evidently, they do have family responsibilities, they do have work responsibilities, but unfortunately, classroom studies are not going to suffice in this case, because you have to understand that this being a foreign language, completely different from what you already know, needs a good amount of time and effort from your own end also. So you should involve yourself in proper note making. You should involve yourself into listening to podcasts, listening to radio, reading blogs and newspaper articles, etc., to get comfortable with the French language. And hence, classroom studies will not suffice unless you do some self-study at your own end. The fifth question, which ones are the easiest and the toughest modules in the TEF Canada? Well, the answer to this question depends from individual to individual. For me personally, it was reading, as I mentioned earlier. Reading for the simple reason that firstly, the level of the questions, as the difficulty level increases, the vocabulary might get more difficult. So there are sometimes some expressions used which are way too difficult for a non-native to understand, and hence it could be challenging. And there are also some students who find the listening module more challenging because of the accent sometimes, or because of the fact that they do not have control over the audio. Okay. And there are also students who find writing more challenging because maybe they're not very comfortable with the spellings or with how to put an accent, which accent to put, or the grammar itself. So that could be one loophole. And there are students who find speaking more challenging because maybe they're not as comfortable speaking, maybe they're too shy to speak. So that could be one of the challenges. So this has a very subjective answer, and it varies from student to student. The sixth one, is there a paper pen version of TEF Canada? Well, no, unfortunately, no more. It used to be there till the time of the pandemic, but ever since the pandemic hit, it was changed into the eTEF version, which is the electronic version of the TEF, and there's no alternative to that. If you have to take the TEF Canada exam, you have to appear for it on a computer-based system, and so you also need to be a little bit more comfortable with a laptop, using a laptop and with typing. Seventh question, do we get earphones, headphones during the listening module? Yes, definitely. Every student has their own system, laptop, and they are provided headphones. And before listening, you also have an option to verify if the volume and the audio quality, everything is working well according to your requirement. And after that, you can start the test. In case there's an issue with your audio quality or with the volume or something, you can always let your examiner know about it. They will help you with it. The eighth question, how do we put accents during the writing module? Well, this is a very common question asked by most of the students because French has accents, English does not. Me personally, I took my exam in Paris, wherein I was provided an AZERTY keyboard, and therein the accents were inbuilt. So it was not very challenging for me. Students here in India who generally appear for the exam have a virtual keyboard on the screen because they're given a QWERTY keyboard instead, which does not have any accents on it. But yes, there are also shortcut keys. So if you know the shortcut keys, it's good. Else, you will generally have a virtual keyboard just in front of you, which you can use just on screen while putting accents. Then, talking about the ninth question, can we change the order of attempting the questions in each module? So, no, it varies actually. So you have the reading module wherein you do have complete control over changing the sequence of questions, which personally I would not suggest changing. You should not ideally go for attempting the, B1, B2 level questions first and then coming back to A1. No, that's not ideal because if the exam has been designed this way, there must be a reason for it. So try to try to follow that structure that's there. But yes, what you can do is that you can attempt all of the questions till the end and then come back to those which you have not attempted, which is what I also personally did. I was very comfortable doing it, and you will have the control to that. Talking now about listening, you do not have any control over the audio. You do not have any control over the questions. You do not have the right to go back to the questions that you've not attempted. And so you should be very cautious while you are already at it. So you should not wait for going back to those questions because it's not possible. Once the timer ends, the listening module is over. Now, talking about the writing module, herein, yes, you do have control if you want to attempt the second task first or the first task first. Is completely up to you. But again, here I will say that if it's been structured a certain way, it should have a reason. For the first task, you should be spending ideally 20 minutes as a total, out of which 15 minutes you take for your rédaction, your 15 minutes for your writing, and the remaining 5 minutes to revise and to correct the errors that you have made. After that, you come to section B, wherein you take 40 minutes as a total, out of which 35 minutes should be devoted to writing and 5 minutes should be devoted to revising and making the corrections that you find possible. So that's how the writing module is. After that, you come to the speaking module, wherein the examiner is obviously going to conduct the two sections for the dialogue in a sequence. First will be the formal dialogue and the informal dialogue. And so you cannot choose to go for the informal dialogue and then the formal one. That's not possible. 10th question. Are there any technical difficulties that may arise during reading, listening, and writing? Now, that's a question to really ask because these three being computer-based examinations, there's always a risk. So I'll be very honest. I have definitely heard people having some technical issues with their reading, listening, writing, and honestly, it's a matter of your luck also. Because in some cases, if you're having some little difficulty with some, a technical difficulty, your examiner may help you right there. But there are also cases where there might be a huge challenge that might arise, and the examiner might also not be able to help you. So that's just completely a gamble game, and I'm really sorry to discourage you with this, but that's the truth, unfortunately. So yeah, there it is. I mean, I'm just putting forward what my observation is from my own experience and from my students' experience here. The 11th question, how many attempts of the TEF Canada I can take? If unfortunately your first attempt or one of your attempts has not gone so well due to any technical difficulty, are you eligible to take another? Yes, you are eligible to take up as many attempts of the TEF Canada as you want. But here you need to have a certain gap in between two consecutive attempts. So in some centers, generally it is 1.5 to 2 months. But I've also seen that there are centers which allow you to take the exam immediately after 1 month. So you need to contact your center to ask them as to when you can register for your second attempt. Voila. The next question, when do I get my results? Generally, the results are declared and sent to you by email after 3 to 4 weeks of your exam. However, in my case, I took the exam on 21st March 2022 and I immediately received the result on 24th March 2022, which was quite soon, unexpected, but that's what happens for many candidates these days. And the last question here is, what is the validity of the TEF Canada results? The result is valid for 2 years from the date of the declaration of result. So there you go. I've tried to cover everything related to the TEF Canada examination, but if at all there is something missing, if at all you have more questions, please do not hesitate to write them in the comment section below. Regarding the resources that I have referred to in this video, I will be adding the links to the same in the description box. So if you found this video informative, please do hit the like button and do subscribe to our channel, and keep visiting us for more information. And for inquiring regarding online French classes, you can contact us. The contact details will also be added in the description box below. Thank you so much. Au revoir et à la prochaine. You